Good day, everyone. Our lesson for today is all about how to balance chemical equation. There are 7 steps to follow, but before discussing them one by one, let's define first chemical equation. Or what is a chemical equation? A chemical equation is a chemical formula that provides the information of the elements and molecules that are reacting as well as the molecules that are being produced from that reaction. The law of conservation of mass states that the mass of the reactants must balance the mass of the product. So in order to balance a chemical equation, we need to make sure that the number of each element on the reactant side is equal to the number of atoms of each element on the product side. So in order to make both sides equal, we need to multiply the number of atoms in each element until both sides are equal. So let's start with step 1, the unbalanced equation. So let's take this equation as our example. Aluminum reacts with oxygen to produce aluminum oxide. So in chemical equation, we have Al plus O2 produces Al2O3. So first, we have to rewrite the equation as shown here. So this is now our unbalanced equation. Step 2, we have to make a list. So using our equation example, first we have to identify the elements on this area. This is our reactant, and the elements on the product side, on the right side. So we have to make a list of all the elements on each side under the equation. So we have on the reactant side, we have aluminum. On the product side, we have also aluminum. Oxygen for the reactant and oxygen for the product. So this is our list of elements provided. Step 3, identify the atoms in each element. By the way, we have to explain or define what an atom is. An atom is the smallest component of an element that contains chemical properties of that element. The atom of each element contains the protons, neutrons, and electrons of that element. So again, using our formula here, okay, so we have to identify the number of atoms. So these are the number of atoms present in each element. So we have here aluminum is 1, oxygen is 2. On the right side, we have aluminum is 2 and oxygen is 3. Then we have fourth step, multiply the number of atoms. So this is our formula. As we notice, the number of atoms next to each element. So as you can notice on the reactant, we have different number of atoms compared to the product side. So in order for us to balance the chemical equation, we need to make sure that the number of atoms of each element on the reactant side is equal to the number of atoms on the product side. So In order to make both sides equal, we need to multiply the number of atoms in each element until both sides are equal. So let's see. Aluminum will have 1 atom times 2. So 2. On the right side, we have 2 times 1 is 2. And then we have oxygen. 2 times 3 is 6. And 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so as we can see, the multiplication of the atoms on the reactant side will affect both elements on the product side. So let's have the next step, step 5. So place the coefficients in front of molecules. So these are the coefficients. For aluminum we have 2, for oxygen we have 3, for aluminum oxide we have 2. So after we have multiplied the number of atoms of each element, say to it that both sides are equal. So you will put the number, so these are the number, or the coefficient which is being multiplied by later by the subscript. So always see to it that the coefficient should always be written first before the symbol of each element. But on the product side, although both elements did not get multiplied, still place the number that was multiplied as the coefficient in front of the compound. So this is the coefficient. Then we'll have step 6. In step 6, okay, we have to make a list. So these are the list of elements. And we have to see to it or to check if multiplying the coefficient with the subscript will give us atoms equal both on the reactant and on the product. So we have here aluminum. So 1 times 2 is 2. Oxygen 2 times 3 is 6. On this side we have aluminum. 2 times 2 is 4. And oxygen is 3 times 2 is 6. So we still have an unbalanced element of aluminum. Since aluminum has only 2 atoms on the reactant and we have 4 atoms on the product, which means aluminum is not yet balanced. So what are we going to do? We have to apply step 7. So in step 7, let's check. The coefficient 2 is being replaced by 4. So that if we are going to multiply 1 by 4, the product is 4. So we have here, we'll check. 2 times 3 is 6 for oxygen. On the other side, aluminum is 2 times 2 is 4 and oxygen 3 times 2 is 6. So if you are going to check the number of atoms of each element, twice the number of atoms of each element on the product side, 4 on the reactant, 4 on the product, 6 for oxygen on the reactant, and 6 for oxygen on the product. So it means this is now the balanced equation. So I hope I have discussed the lesson properly, and if you have any query or questions, you may ask them afterwards. Thank you very much and good day.